think this is live. This better be live. All right. We made it. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton-Sehon with Swiftfire True TV, and we are here with Sacha Stone. I know you guys have been definitely anticipating, and I do apologize for the tech issues we've been having. It's been quite a fun morning, but we are here and we are excited, and I'm super stoked to see you. Sacha, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good. A little frantic today. It's been one of those whirlwind days and weeks, but yeah, we're getting through it. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't seen you. Well, I've seen you around on different shows that you're doing and hosting, but I haven't had you back on the show for about, I think, 4 weeks now. So I'd love to hear what you've been up to and your endeavors, and just kind of see how you're feeling about where we are right now.
I'm feeling as discombobulated as most human beings, but it's all good. You know, my living philosophy is all about the geometry of now and being completely present and bearing witness and not identifying with all the flux and all the bullshit, and standing in truth and seeing what we see. That's why I steered myself into this world, and that part of the process doesn't frustrate me too much. Dealing with how we navigate the grotesquerie of the let's say the superstructure of government and mind control and dream spell that's taking place right now. I didn't envision a year ago that we would be living through this in vernal equinox or spring equinox of 2021. I didn't think we would be moving into this bizarre sort of aberration in the matrix. I thought that we were moving into a clearing, but it's all good. And navigating it is a tremendous challenge. It's hateful what's happening right now with the inversion of logic and the bastardization of human reason, the butchering is the correct word, of human reason, the coercion and manipulation by satanic forces operating through governments and institutions, all governments, all institutions, all parliaments, all agencies that are mandated to serve the people have now moved against the people. They're all in a largely unconscious but critically conscious conspiracy and collusion to willfully slaughter millions of human beings, because that is what's happening. That's what's already underway. It's not any longer in the realm of conjecture or theoretic. We are seeing systemic failure of immune systems in children, in adults, in infirm and people all around the world. We're seeing the system move against care workers. I'm hearing a tremendous fallback feedback to the speaker now, which is a bit odd. Yeah, so that's quite terrifying to behold, seeing how care workers in the United Kingdom, for instance, are now being told they will be forcibly jabbed with this thing masquerading as a vaccination, when every medical scientist with any integrity or any standing knows full well that you do not wear surgical masks in the street ever, under any circumstance. You only wear it in a sterilized environment in order to prevent certain pathogens and bacterium from flying out into open wounds when you're conducting surgery. That's it. There is no other reason or excuse. But when you factor that governments are controlled by Satanists and Luciferians and blood-drinking, baby-raping psychopaths who themselves are part of age-old dynastic traditions of ritually humiliating humanity whilst they're sodomizing us and ritually harvesting our children, then you begin to understand, okay, well, that's how it plays out. Why are the foster care services and the national health industries, why are they all moving against the living souls? Well, it's because their draconian overlords are facing their own extinction round about now. And so all bets are off. Dirty tricks prevail. And like I said would happen, they're simply throwing gravel in the eyes and in the face of humanity, allowing us out to do little protests here and there. But let's see what we see, Sharnael. Don't start me on this subject. I just won't stop.
Well, I don't want you to stop, because I think this is what we need to hear. I know that I just saw an article yesterday. You were talking about the medical and just wearing it under surgery or types of situations. And you have to understand too, they pump in oxygen to compensate for that. So yeah, they have the masks on, but they pump in loads of oxygen, not just for the open sores, but for those who are wearing the masks. And obviously we're not pumping in oxygen in our homes or
quite outside. Quite the contrary. They are depleting us of oxygen by masking us. And that is causing massive failure in our immune system. So that brings about systemic failure of human health and wellness. That brings about metastasizing in the cells, incoherence in our mental faculties. That brings about discordance and dystopia in the atomic, molecular, and cellular matrices of our biological systems all around the world. Human beings I'm talking about, because we're the ones being masked. Strange that cats and dogs aren't dropping dead in the street from this virulent plague. But there you have it. And the fact is that it's a standoff between the living and the dead, between the Adamite, the sons and daughters of God, and this witless, godless construct called government. And I'm going to keep saying it because that's what it is. And people have been indentured into believing that government is normal, that having government governing us it's not fucking normal, excuse my language. It's never been normal. It's a phenomenon over the last century or so. It didn't exist before the League of Nations. You had Germania, and you had, Habsburg Empire, and you had the Ming dynasty, and you had, we had nation states accreted in the course of the last few hundred years, off the back of the Vatican complex and its weaponizing of the world and subversion of the message of Master Yeshua, and its perversion as it granted the rights to all crowns of Europe to go and murder black skin, brown skin, red skin, yellow skin people in the sacrifice of innocence. Yes, and that's where governments emerged. They literally created artifice, emerged off the broken bones and the bloodletting, the blood cult, the systemic blood harvesting of our blessed brothers and sisters all around the world. Governments emerged off that stuff. This draconian creature that now sits in place where you can't quite put your finger on it. You can't quite identify who is government. Where's it coming from? We know the prime minister and the president's only here for about 4 years. Then they're gone through the revolving door, and some other twat, in a political hat moves in and takes tenure, and we're all supposed to be enthusiastic and wave flags. Oh, a new era of hope. And 4 years of watching the next political creature be brought into their dissolution through the system, because they're only allowed to reign for 4 years, maybe with a second term for another 4. So what's going on here? The entire party political system and two-party political system, that dialectic is a satanic dream spell. Democracy, mob rule, the lowest common denominator becoming the determining factor in the social graces and how we govern ourselves and how we make laws. Really, that sounds pretty fucked up to me. So the whole godless system, from the administrative to the legislative to the judicial to the executive to the policing and the militarizing, the entirety of the system is defunct. It doesn't serve the living. It serves the dead. It serves the fiction. It serves the banker priest. That's who it serves, which is to say the invisible mastery, because most bankers are more coke-sniffing morons getting whacked out bonuses before they drop dead at 52 of a heart attack. So, it's not the bankers themselves. It's banking, which is government, which is the Catholic Church, which is the absence of light in this temporal veil. It's all the same thing. Versus what? Versus me, baby. The atom seed, the sons and daughters of God, the Adamite, versus me, motherfucker. And we have to take that position. We have to own that. It's not even a fight. It's a knowing. And in so doing, if sufficient numbers amongst us simply own that Christed nature, boom, it's over. The entirety of the godless construct of the industrialized world, all of the billions and billions of square miles of asphalt and chemical poisons and the blankets of phosphates and barium raining down on us and pollutants and in the rivers and the oceans, everything will move into phase conjugation and coherence with the immanent template, because that's written into the codes of nature to heal and to absolve and to redeem.
Yeah, and you know what? What's even worse than the actual jab or whatever is the fear. It's the fear. I went to a hospital. I'm a doctor, and I went to this hospital not as to practice, but just to go, and had an appointment to go see someone, and someone that I actually have known for a couple decades, and I really thought was a smart human. She walks in, or when I walk in, I'm not even shitting you. She's wearing 2 masks. She's got a shield on. She has gloves. A full white covering. She used tongs, Sasha. She used tongs to pass me something. And I literally was like, what took over your body and made this happen? Because you're not, it's bizarre watching people that I know are smart, but yet it's like there's no talking to this person or people.
No. But that's frequency, as you know, Sharnael. That's frequency and resonance. That's the quanta. That's the quanta that defines whether we're standing in the Christed light or we're standing in the false light. Be very clear about this. This is an indivisible threshold that exists within the atom seed of each one of us. And only we and our divine will make a determination of which side of the line we stand, in the Christed flame or in the flame of the false light. The false light only understands systems, entropy, fear, and a dissolution of the sacred, a desecration of the sacred. So and they may be good people or smart, as you call them. I would question that, but they may be street savvy people, but they're not fully ensouled. They have not locked in. Their consciousness is not actualized. They're not in any dynamic form of consciousness. They are sentient. They have a pulse, but they haven't yet owned the flow of their own lives. And the tragedy there, in a way, is that they now move into dissolution. They move toward the unseen realm, which is the one they trust more than the seen realm. They've already given allegiance to false light, not to true light. True light says that sunlight is beautiful and that oxygen feels great and that we should be running around and we should be playing, we should be fucking, we should be doing all the things that humans are wired to do. And we should be engaged in our pursuit of bliss and true inquiry and expansiveness and affirmation. That's what we were wired to do and to be. But no, that school of smart person that you just mentioned have already pledged allegiance to the false light. So they are masking them, gloving themselves up, and they're pampering, and they're trying to protect themselves against the communion and the fellowship of men. Oh, what a dire travesty that is. And the minute you enact that and embody that archetype, you have pledged yourself to death, to Lucis, to Lucifer, to the false light. You will die. And this is the sadness, is that many people are moving now into that self-elected, self-appointed dissolution phase, and they will be dead. 1 jab, good luck. 2, you're out of here. 3, good night, sweet prince. It's over. But worse than that, a great many souls will likely be taken over and turn this plane of existence into the zombie apocalypse for a period of time. As we depart the time itself, we're likely to see a zombie apocalypse, because the genetic intervention taking place through this RNA modification therapy, gene therapy, inside these toxin cocktails of poison masquerading as vaccines, that has got a job to do. It has a very specific function, which is apparently the override of the Adamite element in our DNA. And you take over the hardware of the human with an imposed software that becomes a perfect capacitor for the demonic realms to operate through. Gone, baby, gone. And so many people having these vaccines, the able-bodied will not drop dead. Their bodies will survive, likely move in, and we're talking AI, transhumanism, demonic interposition, intervention of the human family. That's it. Hard logic for anyone to really own that, but that's what is happening. And good Christians, I refer you to the good book. Go right back to
it says right on the website for Moderna that it's an operating system. And once you get the first one, then there's 4 to follow, which will include all the 4 proteins for the purpose of that operating system. And, but fear itself suppresses the immunity. So that hand in hand, they're working all the ways, whether it's chemtrails, food, the vax, all, everything is, and now they're talking about not just the medical and making sure everyone's square on that, but the military. That's scary. Yeah. That is so scary. They're saying by June or July, they want it mandatory, and they're really pushing it.
They will push it. They'll push it. They'll push it, and it'll work to an extent. It won't ultimately work. It'll work to an extent. It'll work to the threshold that it is received consensually by workers. I mean, I've been on the phone today with nurses, doctors and nurses. I'm on the phone every day with doctors and nurses. Yesterday, I was on the phone for an hour with a dozen of the leading medical scientists in the world. You talk about Sherry Tenpenny and Dr. Eric Nepute and Christiane Northrup and Tom Cohen and Andy Kaufman and so on. These are the iconic figures in truth, disclosure, real hard medical science, all of whom have been corralled now into having mastermind sessions amongst ourselves so that we can still keep the flame of truth alive in the satanic field of darkness, this envelope of darkness that's been moving through the medical science fraternity. Now, personally, I take a good chuckle at that because I've been warning about that shit for over a decade. Since at least 2005, I've been writing essays about it and warning about how weaponized academia always was as an extension of Tavistock, the Fabianist cloisters, and so on. So academia has been highly toxic anyway for the last century. The Oxbridge set, and the Ivy League in the US have been hand in glove, lockstep with the Masonic, satanic, Sabbatean agenda of subverting the true Adamites and overtaking this earth plane with their own demonic intervention. So that's all playing out now, rather like a sort of poorly scripted Batman film. That's with with the penguin, and the evil mayor, and it's great because it's archetypal stuff that's hit us now, but it's still very serious. And to a lot of good people, seeing families being torn apart and relationships being shredded and eviscerated because of this forced dystopia. This mind virus that is being foisted into us, trying to force the health and medical workers into themselves becoming drone class cyborgs who do the bidding of their satanic masters without compunction, without conscience. That's the objective. And moving to the military after the health workers on the front line have fallen victim to that scam. The idea and the thinking is that good soldiery, good military people, if our doctors and nurses on the front line there did it, well, then we're men, we're soldiers, we're tough. We've got to do it. We've got to take it for the team. So that's the thinking. It's perverse, infantile, psychological manipulation. But these Luciferians do that. They love that. That's why they sodomize kids and make people eat their own feces on stage in their grotesque little black mass rituals. That stuff is going on in the basement. It's surfaced now. They have one chance left to commandeer this world and prevent the true event horizon from marrying with us, which is the vertical ascension. That's what all of this is about. That is what vaccines are all about, so-called vaccines, okay? Endogenous, triggering of responses at the, chemical level in the body to straight up gene therapy, interventionism. The whole gamut, the slow systemic poisoning through glyphosates, phosphates, and aluminum, all of that stuff, creating engineering cocktails of poisons, forcing them onto the high street supermarket shelves in every goddamn product. That's by design, all of it, because those synthetic chains have other responses, chemical responses inside the human body. They weaponize the pineal. They destroy the immune system. They render us into exactly what we have been planned to be. And worse, when the 5G kill grid kicks in, Skynet, oh, wait for it. That's when the true command and control is in lockstep globally, because there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Absolutely nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. And the new Babylonian priesthood take their perverse Arthurian round table in Davos, Switzerland, which was always the preserve of this satanic echelon.
Well, and what are you hearing? Because this morning I got some intel from Dr. Coleman talking about, the new phase or the next phase, but also those who already had the vax, that the shedding of it could actually interrupt the people who never even got it. And
of course it will. Of course it will, because that's how living systems work, morphogenesis. We're all interconnected. Our microbiomes are broadcasting and transmitting to one another and receiving signals from one another. It's all down, again, to frequency transmission and reception of frequency coding. And so you mutate a cellular system to an extent, and you create incoherence in the spin of so-called atoms, and you elicit mutant frequency sets. That radiance, that subtle body radiance that comes off that person affects absolutely people in their field. And through linguistic wave genetics, it targets your family first. So your babies, your mother, father, cousins are going to be the ones, people connected to your bloodline are the ones that are going to be impacted firstly through the linguistic wave broadcasting that occurs through the quantum field. Doesn't matter if they're in Australia and you're in Colorado, they're going to feel it instantaneously. Then, of course, that just creates an entanglement, a mutant planetary entanglement of inverse morphogenesis, which is moving in against the Adamite. It's taking down the entirety of the invisible realm that bonds the immanent template of our existence. It goes very, very deep, this stuff, very deep. But the Luciferic satanic mind knows that. The great, mischief maker understands that. And I want to quickly swing the conversation 180 degrees. Boom.
That's what I was going to say. What can we do, and what do you personally do just for your mental and emotional?
Right. So what I do is I swing that narrative that I just described 180 degrees, and I see the perfection in the geometry of now. And I say, behold, I'm bearing witness to that which is. Not that what I want to be, not what I thought would be, not what I hoped would be. No, that which is. And I'm good with it. I'm okay with it, because I want to simply not identify with it. I don't want to manipulate it. I just want to be absolutely clear in my state of witness. Because in that state of witness, I'm able to reconvene myself with Alpha Omega. Only in that state. If I am psycho-emotionally identified with how fucked up everything is, I am pulled into that vortex strain. I am in that vortex. Psycho-emotionally, energetically, I'm entangled with it. It's going to affect me. If I learn the true art of disidentification, which is still point, which is to be absolutely mindful, fully actualized in a state of pure witness, but not identified with, not psychologically or emotionally or sexually or intellectually entangled, but to simply bear witness. Now I can affect the outcome, because I'm unified with the field of God consciousness in that state of pure witness, but non-identification. Now I can project divine plasma and to the outcome and project the outcome. And that's universal law, which always existed, but it's now existing even more so than it did 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. And that's connected to the movement of our Earth plane, our solar system through the fringe of the Milky Way, and how we are moving into a new field of light, literally. And that light impacting photonic intelligence is giving us, it's illuminating us from the inside, because those very fine photonic particulates are able to illuminate inside our systems, which is what's causing the apocalypse, the falling away of the mask, which is what's causing a revelation. This is ascension, early onset ascension. This is called the grace of God. We're living through that beautiful, beautiful becoming. And if you shut your eyes and if you sense it and you truly connect to the atom seed of who you are, who you be, which is the Adamite, the one that truly emerges through this earth, and you own and stake your claim in this earth, you can feel that. You can feel the power and the glory. And you must position yourself in that. And then you project the outcome. And then it begins to manifest in your life. In your life. And then as that moves into conjugation with the field of consciousness of the friends and family and those that you impact and influence, then that's how the morphogenesis truly starts to, or morphogenetic unfoldment kicks in. And that's the thing that's happening any which way. Because if you put yourself in that state, you can see the emergence. So the old is falling away. The draconian, reptilian, snake, brotherhood of the snake element that we're still dealing with through the echo chamber of time, that's all gone. It's all already dead. I said this a few years ago. That creature's already actually brain dead. It's simply living through the inertia of the draconian mythos that we have allowed it to emerge as through our collective position of unconsciousness, of not standing in our Christed Adamite flame. Now we do that, Sharnael, you and I. We're very much doing that in the work we do. The people I speak to, I'm blessed to know and work with every day all around the world are that tribe, are that family. The idea of masking ourselves against reason, against Christed nature, against oxygen, against sunlight is not just an anathema, it is repugnant to the soul. It is an affront to our soul to consider participating in a satanic pantomime on the high street or in the airport or on the bus. So we don't do it unless we absolutely have to, in which case we do it under very, very serious protest. And we raise protest and raise hell all the way. But the minute you comply or acquiesce or obey or fall into, it's okay, I'll just get through the day. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Well, and I've been talking to some people too, because I know for me, I pretty much stay in my arena of the people that I'm with and the places that I know I can go where it's not going to be in my face, literally seeing, the crazy. But we just went to Vegas and I had to get on a plane. And that's the first time I've traveled in a year. And I used to travel every week for my job, and seeing the masks and, the Nazis walking around, double mask, ma'am, you need to put your mask on in between food. I mean, just, oh my God. But, so it takes a lot of discipline. The government is, to take back our authority of government, mental. And it is to do that, to stay sovereign and to keep your sanity. I'm not saying hide and don't look at it because it's there, but also not participating and keeping your mental state, your government.
Yes.
And that discipline comes from disciple, to really mentally not sit in bed and fear the worst and imagine that, because when we image that, we imagine, which goes in the field and does what you were just talking about. Yes. But to stay in that sovereignty and that love and to already see it being done and to imagine that and stay in that image. Go ahead and speak on that.
Well, I do. I'm not sure what the question is. I just love the flow of what you're talking about, but I'm not sure what the question is.
Yeah, it's the whole biofield, the science of changing. We're in this timeline war basically, where it's like who who will win out of the imaging. It's an image war. And
oh, yeah, that's good. No, that's good. I like that you've reduced it to that, because you're absolutely correct. It is absolutely an image war. But then so was the crusading knights. So was the war against terrorism. Sick. The totemism of Twin Towers, Gog and Magog, being felled by military-grade thermate in broad daylight, Technicolor, and broadcast to the world real time. That was iconography, iconoclasticism. That was iconography. That was totemism. That was playing with images. That's what the satanic mind knows how to do, because in this realm, it is permitted to do so. But it's only permitted to do so where we granted permission.
Yeah.
And you see, we have to abnegate or surrender or abdicate our soul sovereignty and do the Faustian pact in order to grant those permissions. Everything is permission-based, and everything is to do with universal biofeedback or feedback. So the universe leans in, asks you, how do you want to play? And you go, hey, I want to play, miserable peasant living in the 15th century, suffering like hell, with an evil baron of the land. Great. How long do you want to play that for? Well, I think I'll get to 62 and then die of racked in pain. Great. You want to play that? Go for it. So at the soul level, we're each conjuring our incarnation, and we're participants in this universal field. And the universe said that to me every morning. What do you want to do? I say, today I want to be sexy as hell. I want to wake up. I want to feel really good. I want an ocean. I want a mountain. Great. It's there. It's there. It's there. And we have to learn that we are the great geometer. You see, the satanic mind says the geometer is out there. That's Freemasonry is all connected into that, turning God, the icon, into an idolatrous notion. And it's not. Any shamanic wisdom teaches us, any connected spiritualized wisdom knows that we are an extension of the divine. We are the divine by nature. It's us. It's who we are. There's no separation. Only the idea of separation. And the crypto Christians now turn that notion into Luciferianism and say, he must be a Luciferian because he's all about the I am. No, you twat. I'm not all about the I am. I'm all about identifying absolutely with the message of Master Yeshua. Actually. Unabashedly, unashamedly. Well, we are the sons and daughters of God. We are the children of God. That's it. Which is to say we are unified. There's there's no separation. It's like I said, all perfect, actually. It's all good. But to what extent can we continue to play a better game in the hologram and create a path of least resistance to a higher outcome and to mitigate the suffrage of those around us? That becomes a matter of the Christed nature as well. To what extent am I prepared to stay in the shitty sewer, working amongst my brothers and sisters? I certainly, could carve out a pretty comfortable life for myself, far away from the madding crowd in that sense, and living a blissful, removed existence, waiting for the shitstorm to pass. And also, I could monetize the hell out of it as well. One could do things like that, but I'm compelled, and I know you are, just to look at your amazing clutter in your studio behind you. You're just all about fucking. You're there on so many levels. You've turned up. You've showed up. I'm showing up constantly. Many of us are.
And that's what I think too is that fine line of imaging and setting our own images that are positive. Because that's what we tend to lock into on our psyche is what our eyes behold. We become. But also that action line of standing up, because we can't just sit back and kumbaya and meditate and hope it all just goes away. There has to be some action and being God in action, and not just like, I just wait for Jesus to come back and I'm just going to pray every year.
He's not coming back. He's not coming back. He never left.
The cells here within us. We are the action. We are the choice. We're here to commission, to take dominion. And that requires choices every day, moment to moment, what we eat, what we drink, who we're hanging out with, every step of, are we going here today? Are we doing this? It's all this opportunity of will and choice and setting ourselves up to make those choices and or to not, and so I don't know. I get aggravated when people will send, oh, well, we're just praying, and I love prayer. I appreciate prayer. I love Jesus. Jesus is the highest on the scalar waves, right? And Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, no messing about there. No, Yeshua comes out marginally ahead. It just remarkable. The 1000, that's it. Pure white light consciousness, incarnate, and in both worlds, in the seen and the unseen realm. Yeah, amazing.
So the more that we can participate, make the good choices, work on our own immunity, even on a physical, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And I love that you said, what do you want today? I want a mountain. I want the ocean. There's so much healing, and and just the waves of, beta waves of the ocean, and the real air, and, touching the earth and getting grounded. And so,
well, people are listening to us, as many people will see this discussion, and they will be in a situation where they are sitting under house arrest in some tenement block, in a cityscape, and not able to even walk outside and hug a tree. Fact, that's happening. So there's a great many people who have conjured at the soul level for themselves a different experience. Put it that way, just a different experience, and they're navigating through that. But the harshness or the pressure conditions of that experience are designed by them, by each of them, at the soul level, to be the perfect cauldron within which they now define their noble journey, their hero's journey, will and must emerge through this confluence of pressure, of stress, of all the deathly kind of images that many people are assailed and afflicted by. I mean, we're seeing the letters that I get every single day, and I'm blessed because at the last time I counted, which was a couple of months ago, I was getting about 3,000 to 3,500 messages a day, and I don't begin to get through them. Obviously, can't do it, and my staff don't do that for me either. And one or two do help on social media, but in the main, I do a litmus. I can get through maybe 8% a day of what's coming in. I can get through a few hundred, 200-300 maybe messages, which I do as a duty of care. I really want to learn. I want feedback. I've got such a good litmus, such a good take. If the 10% that I get to read on social media, messages, feedback, comments on threads and emails and WhatsApp and Telegram, if that I'm seeing represents the common pulse, sweet Jesus, we're already there. We've arrived, because the awakening is so comprehensive. The people who are writing to me, I'm getting high-ranking Freemasons, 33rd degree and above. No shit, not joking.
Wow.
Top gun Freemasons, top gun academics, double, triple PhDs. I'm getting parliamentarians. I'm getting people reaching out on behalf of certain world leaders. I'm meeting the overarching collateral owners and trustees of the global financials, the economic system. So, but I've been doing that since 2005, and the other people masquerading as being playing that game. Beware of people who are out there pretending at this game. The real controllers and owners and living trustees of the collaterals are a remarkable lot. The ones that I'm blessed to have met and spent time with, and now am in communication with. And I'm speaking to leading activists, frontline activists, political activists, and people in the health science arena. I have got such a good take on where we're at. And then I'm receiving letters from pastors, from Greek Orthodox priests, from bishops, from just laymen. I'm all faiths, multi-faith. And I'm also receiving messages from people in about, I'd say about 65, 70 countries.
Wow.
Identifiably. And so I've got such a good take on where we're at. And I'd say we're at an incredibly empowered as a species, the degree to which the comprehensive degree to which that awakening is engendered and is taking place. So I'm not worried about the end story at all, because I say we've already arrived on dry shore. Firmly believe it. Do we lose 10% of the planet as collateral to this, or do we lose 30%? It's somewhere between there for sure. It's between 15 and 30% minimum that we're likely to lose, that will move off world in the next few short years. That much for sure we have to be prepared for. But how much of that is covenanted at the soul level becomes a matter for each one of us to look at in our own lives.
Well, and I hope you guys are watching or sharing this with your friends and making sure that this gets out there. One thing I do want to bring up is I was told by Elena and them that you do your own graphics, and I know that you have artwork and you're an amazing artist. Creativity is such an awesome piece here too of expression. You know, the opposite of depression and suppression and oppression is that ability to create. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what inspires you and how we can create. Maybe those people who are in the cement jungle cities, that's an opportunity for us to express in our own way while we're sitting there and to get out that what's inside and to get it out, you know? Can you speak into that?
So this is the thing, that the human being is a creator. We're born to create. That's it. End of. Human being is born to create. We're born to dive into orgasm. We're born to fall absolutely unfettered into the orgasmic. And I'm talking about initially the sexual orgasm. This is the one that we identify within ourselves through masturbation and then moves on into lovemaking, and hopefully doesn't move into realms of perversity that take us too far off track. But the point being that the activating of our blessed sexuality is seeing the world through the eyes of a child as well. Don't kid yourself. And we need to get rid of the orthodox notions there connected to cult programmed religious doctrine. Breathe that shit out of your system right now. Get rid of all of that bullshit out of your system. We were born to run around with our dicks waving in the wind. That's what we absolutely. So now we've already retarded ourselves from our true Adamite of being completely naked and being blessed in that and standing majestic in that, in our nakedness. For the love of Christ, why do we cover our bodies up? I'm not a nudist. I've never been a nudist. I've got dodgy knees. I'm not going to be the first one to wear shorts. But the point is, there shouldn't be an issue with it. There should be no issue with me standing there completely naked and beholding one another. It's just how we have compartmentalized and we've inverted psychosexuality into a dirty little parlor game. And this is a travesty. So I see a resurrection is coming there. A resurrection. Do you like that?
Arise.
Exactly. The point I'm making is that humans are born to create. And the ultimate creation is, of course, to make babies. And how you do that? Well, go figure. We are here to explore our bliss. We are here to dive deeply into the orgasmic, the blissful. Why do you think ritual satanic practice is all about sodomizing and raping?
True, right?
It's because they understand the impossible majesty and power of life force that issues through the innocent. And it's a sexual energy. It's kundalini. It's life force. And how you invert that, snap that, break it, and turn that child into a utility of a satanic practice, that's what's going on. Governments and agencies and foster care services and children's agencies that disposed to helping kids and families, many of them have been completely distorted and are part of that proclivity, part of that evil empire of ritual abuse, of rape, of sacrilege against the innocent. That's a fact. We know that. It's all coming to the surface, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But the fact is, we're born to paint, to sculpt, to create ceramics and pots, to explore, to adventure, to sojourn. That's what we came into this world to do, and to be creators. But the problem with the third party is the third party intervention prohibits us moving freely upon the surface of the earth. It also prohibits us from chasing our bliss. So the religious cult programming comes in and says, thou shalt not wank, and all the rest of it. And the government program comes in and says, thou shalt not pursue thy bliss. Thou shalt be a wage slave, a plantation slave. Thou shalt pay taxes and tithes to Caesar. Thou shalt do one's duty to be a patriot and wave a goddamn flag and all of that bullshit, which is another perversion in the matrix. And I'm not saying patriotism right now is a very good thing, and I'm very pro-patriotism. But when we find our center as a species, patriotism is a stupid, childish toy. Put it away. It's highly toxic. So being blissful, being creative, making things is what we should be doing, all of us. But we live in a world where we're brokerage. We're all brokering things. We're all forced into shitty little vocations which fleece off one another and snatch a little grim profit over here, snatch a coin or a fee or a tariff over there. And that's a society of parasites that are all parasiting off one another, all vying for supremacy, using time, motion turned into a totem of fear, which is money. That's the great crime, is that we're the ones who permitted ourselves to fall victim to that great myth. I've been speaking, as my friends out there know, I've been speaking for at least a decade about 0-point economics and about the dangers of time, and how until we understand that time and money and fear are the same equation, and that we must disidentify from any of that in order to move into our bliss, which is connected to the elevation of art and beauty and consciousness. And if I do it, it becomes a virus. It's virulent, and other people start, and then we all start. Imagine we all woke up and blissfully yawned and woke up at the time of our choosing, when our body clock said arise. That's it. Not following the dictates of alarm clocks. Now, I've never woken up to an alarm clock, okay? Not for 30 years. So I don't have a clock anywhere near me. I'm blessed. I don't arrange to have interviews before midday. Occasionally I have to, but I work until 4 or 5 o'clock every morning without fail. And I go to bed. I only sleep 5 or 6 hours, but I'm leading. My pulse is that. My pulse is to work through the night. Mind you, I'm in Southeast Asia, so I have to deal with America and Europe, you know. But that's my pulse. I wake up when my body wakes up, more or less. And I eat what my body tells me to eat, and there's nothing fixed. I'm barefoot the whole time. I haven't worn shoes for 18 months. Not once has anything been on my feet in 1.5 years. 1.5 years, Sharnael. I'm on beaches, I'm on grass, I'm on the frangipani lawn out there. I walk on the baking hot tarmac. Today, my beloved friend Sovereign was walking with me going, how the fuck are you doing that? Barefoot in the middle of this tropical heat on black tarmac, and I didn't feel the pain. You know, it's there. It's going to cook anyone else. But it's a beautiful freedom, you know, to just be that. And I don't even wear clothes. I have a sarong on, you know, it's a little skirt. That's it. And that's blessed. I'm so blessed to have created that space. I don't even have a wardrobe. I've got these stupid tops that I don't even wear them when I'm not on camera. So that's because that is me following my primal bliss. I grew up in sub-Saharan Africa barefoot. I'm now a middle-aged man, and I'm barefoot again. And I intend to be barefoot till the day I die. What can I say?
I love it. I do have a question. You're bringing up sleep and waking up, and you talked about dream spell. I know what you mean dream spell is, but also I'm curious. Do you have physical dreams when you sleep, and do you remember your dreams? And have you had any like
never dream
kind of dream where you saw something happen? No,
I don't dream at all. And
really?
I never dream, and it's not known to me. I have no recollection of this world before being here. I have no karmic connection to this world that I'm aware of. I never dream. There is no part of me that dreams. But I think that that's because I spend my whole woken state in a reverie. So I'm painting. Yeah, you're right. I'm painting a lot. I don't sculpt. I don't have time to paint or sculpt now. But that's my predisposition. If I wasn't a shit stirrer, activist, and setting up initiatives and oversighting organizations and human rights and natural justice and all of that crap. If I wasn't doing that, I would be a full-time poet, because for me, there's nothing more powerful than poetry. It's the one thing I do have a chance from time to time to knock some nonsense together, but I would be a poet, a painter, and a sculptor. I'm actually more trained as a sculptor than anything else. And I'm also an architect. And, you know, I do a lot of building, create spaces and build them. So I'm, you know, I exercise a lot of creativity. And in setting up, like right now, I'm working with Robert David Steele.
I was going to ask you about that.
So this monster tour in America.
Yeah, that's on my list. Go ahead, tell me.
It's a work of art. We're approaching this as a graphic, eye-dense spectacle. I'm Joseph Goebbels, baby, right? I'm all about propaganda now. Just like, how do we touch the pulse of Middle America, which is my favorite place in the world, right? The Middle America those are my people, okay? The pulse of Middle America is where I belong, heart and soul. Mind you, I'm white African, but right now I'm just all about America. The reason I wear the stupid thing on my arm, and I swore in 2012 when I put it on, I wouldn't take it off until America was freed from tyranny, you know, and that's my funereal band. Yeah, I mean it. I absolutely mean it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so the point is designing this tour with Robert Steele, who is like, he's like a shaved giant panda on acid, okay, with OCD and ADHD, marginally autistic, and a savant all at the same time, right? This guy doesn't sleep. He's crazy. He's the only case officer in CIA history who could do, I think, like 28 cases at the same time, because he's got this incredible mind. So you go to his website. I can't even name what iota dot or so, I don't know. But you go to his genius and you see the plethora of work, systems, organizing, information that he does. No one on earth like him. And now he's setting up the open source intelligence and open source engineering and the world brain and the blah, blah, blah. I'm coming in as an artist saying, sit down, shut the fuck up. You know, no one's going to get your brilliance until or unless they can actually see, touch, and feel it. It's got to have a shape to it. So we come together as an unholy alliance of brothers, and I've taken control as Goebbels of this. I've named it Arise USA, the Resurrection Tour, and it's all about resurrection. It's all about us saying, okay, we're on our backs, our arms and feet are in the air. We have this draconian, satanic, evil empire looming over us, promising to crush the marrow in our bones, and yet we say no, and we get up on our feet and we dust ourselves down. And it's the hero's journey. It's our collective journey, and it's David and Goliath as well. It's a tried and tested archetypal story. The Draco does not win. The sons of Orion do not win. They get onto their hyperdimensional craft and they move straight back through Stargate to where they came from. They have no thrall in this realm any longer. The Brotherhood of the Snake is expunged. It has lived out its grave fantasy. It is no more. The sons of Belial are over. Okay? It's done. And that's the resurrection, because we've arrived at that point. And the pulse of Middle America, which is to say the pulse of Middle Earth, is still beating despite everything.
Awesome. Yeah, I had on Robert with me yesterday, and we had a good chat about you and your tour and your help.
Was he respectful to me because I'm speaking?
He was he adores you. He adores you in front of you and behind your back. So that's the best kind of friend you can have, when they got your back when you're not even looking, right? When they're talking good about you. But yeah, he talks about the tour and the bus, graphics. Are you actually going to come to America, or do you know if you're going to tour?
That's Debbie bringing in tea.
Hi, hey Deb.
That's my beloved Debbie.
She's helped me so much with all the tech stuff and getting this together today. So thank you, Deb. But yeah, we would love to have your barefoot self with your arm, and I mean, I'm invited to go on this tour, by the way. So I'm excited.
You're coming, Sharnael. You're there.
I know. I'm coming.
I mean,
Yes.
be warned, America, be warned. I think there's about 300 leading icons, thought leaders, the great pioneers, the great and good are joining this tour. It's gonna set ablaze Middle America. Very, very excited.
And I'll put the links up to you guys who are watching so you can have more information on it. If I was Robert Steele, I could rattle off the tiny whatever, blah, 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 but that's not me, and I don't do that. So I'll actually provide a clickable link that you guys can click. But we just have a couple more minutes. Tell me what's coming up for you. Where can people find you? I know you have another interview.
Well, I'd rather answer to Denise Timmerman. She says her mum is 75 and she's a fan of Sacha now. I created a monster, she says. She texts me every 5 minutes asking if there's any D-class. So let's try and look at that. I think my time would be well spent answering Denise's mum, who's very important to me. Is there any D-class? We are informed by the most reliable sources that we have, the greater we I'm talking about, that D-class is absolutely underway. It's part of why this draconian element is constricting, why the sons of Belial who have eventuated, and the Brotherhood of the Snake, which has eventuated into Klaus Schwab, Mein Führer in Davos, and his little tits in suits, who are all controllers of the global bankster fest. That lot are living out their last hurrah that right now, precisely because D-class is underway. And that's just the nature of the geometry. It's this and that together at the same time. If you understand broadly how the process of alchemy meaning to say the transmutation of incoherence into coherence, of dystopia into syntropy, of shade into light, the redemption and the salvation and the absolution of all that is. If you understand that process, the alchemization process, then you would understand that that's how it's playing out. We have to move through a process in that alchemization where black and white become absolutely equiproportionate, equidistant and equiproportionate, and we have no fucking idea how to navigate, because it is like the deception and the salvation are the same quanta. Which road do I take? Left or don't take either is my advice. So it is, don't feel you need to take any path to get to the objective. That's the false light. The false light is thinking you have to take a left or a right. That's the false light. That's the wrong action. The right action is to not identify with either the this or the that, because it's all illusory. To withdraw your attention back to the throne of self, of actualized self, in the living geometry of now. To crown yourself the I am. Move into phase conjugation or coherence with the Christed element, the divine light. Simply sit with it. Don't be muttering and praying and worrying about the totemism. Just be present in that state of grace. That's it. Now, open your eyes. See what you see. Feel what you feel. Hear what you hear. Touch what you touch. Know what you know. It's all a godless pantomime. Just be in your Christed nature and walk through the valley of death. Fear no ill. It cannot touch you. It never could. But you must be in that state of grace, and you must have disidentified with all of the noise of the dystopia, all of the dysfunction, all of the propaganda and the dream spell and the dystopia. You must have consciously disidentified with it in order to navigate what we call the duende line, the indivisible line between this and that, night and day, good and evil. Because we don't belong to either. This realm is a confluence of good masquerading as evil and evil masquerading as good. So go figure, okay? We must now move into a complete still point in order to transmute and transcend beyond that realm of divisibility. And once we're in that state of grace, then we collectively transform this world. That's the true second coming, is that the Christed flame envelops the entire world, and we move into that transmutative field of expression, which absolves all synthetic elements, all the dystopia and the incoherent spin of mutant atoms and metastasizing cells and rotten flesh and all the pollutants. All of the incoherence in the field of expression moves back into its Celestine template, because that's immanence. That is immanence. That is what the divine template is. It self-exists, self-reveals, and self-fulfills, provided the sons and daughters of God are actualized in this realm. Own that, anchor that divine prerogative. There you have it.
That's right. Well, we know we win. It's just a matter of how to do that and what to do, and to staying in our presence. Like you said, I love that. And scalar waves will prove that too. You know, that's a big one. I'm a big geek when it comes to that. But those who are present, they tend to have really good scores, because, worrying about the future or thinking about how wrong it went is usually the stress of what happens in our body physically. So if we can just be, that's
Indeed.
where the peace is. That's where the rest is.
Indeed. That's the still point. That's the I am. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, you're amazing, sir. I appreciate you more and more. Every time I interview you, I get more pieces of information that I didn't know, and I'm just more inspired, and I know everyone else is too. So thank you so much for your time. I know you have a big week coming up, so I hope you guys will go follow him. I'm going to put all the links up where you can find out what he's doing, who he's interviewing, who's interviewing him, and all the things that go with that, and just keep up with what he's doing. And go to swiftfire.org if you could, please, too. I got my second strike for like the third time on YouTube. So if you go to swiftfire.org, you can get on my newsletter. And that way, wherever I am, you guys can find where I have to go for whatever reasons when things change up. So I'm also on BitChute. But go to swiftfire.org and just get on the newsletter. And I hope to have you back again in a few weeks, and we'll see where you're at and what's going on. And tell Dab and Sovereign thank you. And you guys.
Thank you, Sharnael. Much love to you.
Guys, bless you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.